Hello, my name is Monica Kretschmer, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Universal Women's Network, Women of Inspiration, and Support Her. I have a very special podcast here scheduled for you today, so perk up and listen in. We are in the studio today with Bobbi Brown. Now, for those of you who don't know Bobbi, she spent 20 years building Bobbi Brown into a billion-dollar business, which she sold to Estée Lauder. Now, Bobbi, I'm super excited. You are a world-renowned makeup artist, serial entrepreneur, best-selling author, and the beauty industry is highly competitive. Now that's not where you start. So there's a whole list of things that you've done in between Bobbi Brown and launching your new beauty brand, Jones Road. But since leaving the cosmetic company in 2016, I'm just going to go through this for those that are listening here. You've written numerous beauty and wellness books and launched Beauty Evolution, LLC. You also launched the Evolution 18, a line of lifestyle-inspired wellness products. The George, which is super incredible, beautiful boutique hotel in Montclair, New Jersey, which is where your home is. And of course, the Jones Road Beauty line, which you launched during the pandemic. So the grass does not grow underneath your feet, Bobbi. You are probably one of the most incredible role models for women of just sort of seizing opportunities and going for it. And I have a quote that I always like to talk about. It's like, women of inspiration don't wait for opportunities, they create them. And you're certainly one of those women. And we're so fortunate to have you in Toronto at the Women of Inspiration Awards very soon, live in person. So we're excited to have you here today, and we look forward to sharing your nuggets, your wisdom, and your story with us. So welcome, Bobbi.
Oh, thank you. That was quite an introduction. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, let's start at the beginning. I always like to start with, did you ever realize, did you see this whole life plan for you when you were a young kid? So when you grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, by the way, one of my also favorite cities, you're raised by two very young parents. How did you go from being in the Chicago suburbs to becoming a makeup mogul?
Well, it wasn't an overnight thing. And yes, I had a wonderful upbringing, really nice parents. I'm very proud to be from Chicago. Being from Chicago just means to me that, my parents, my grandparents taught me and my brothers and sister how to be good people, how to be nice people, how to be hardworking. And, it defines who you are. So I graduated high school early, followed a boyfriend, went to college, was bored, went to another college, wanted to drop out, found Emerson College in Boston, and they allowed me to design my own makeup, my own major, which I did. I designed a major in makeup. And I learned then that it's not so much, what's handed to you, it's what you make out of things. So I could have done nothing, but I didn't. I learned that by wanting to learn more and finding people to teach me, I was able to start my road to entrepreneurship way before they started teaching entrepreneurship.
And that is something that's really interesting, Bobbi, because when I look at where you started and what you had and the support that you had, now we put it front and center about how can we support this woman? How can we support this business? And back when you started, there was no roadmap.
No roadmap.
So
no.
where did you get the motivation for that? I mean, what sort of role models were you surrounded by? Were your parents entrepreneurs?
Well, my mother was a stay-at-home mom and a really great one. My dad, an attorney, yes, was he an entrepreneur? You have to be an entrepreneur if you have your own business. But my grandpa, Papa Sam, is who I give most of, the credit to, because I watched him. He had a car dealership, and I watched him just focus on his business. Even when he came home for dinner, it was about his business, his day. And, I would help him stuff envelopes for advertising. I'd see him on TV. So, Papa Sam he was all in. And I guess I watched him do these things. And even when there was big budgets at Bobbi Brown Cosmetics, I just didn't want to waste money and time. I just wanted to do things myself and kind of take everything down a notch. And I definitely got that from Papa Sam.
So it's really interesting because, when you talk about like the hard working ethics, like you honestly cannot be an entrepreneur without having, number one, confidence, which you built your beauty brand around. It's all about confidence and hard work and grit and determination and tenacity. And I'm going to pull up one of your favorite quotes. And like, you have many, Bobbi, but hold on a sec. Never ask for permission, beg for forgiveness. I literally, when I read that, I'm like, hell yes.
Yeah.
Bobbi and I are fast friends because if you wait for those opportunities, they always go. They never come to fruition. So, what are, and I'm going to jump a little bit over here a little bit. I'm going to go into the role model piece because there's a couple great big things that I want to talk to you today about, Bobbi, is you have so many incredible stories, but we talk about support for women and you talk about your Papa Sam, your father, you mentioned your mom was a stay-at-home mom. So you had good support system around you, but how important is it to have that support network around you in order to achieve great things?
I mean, it's honestly, it's everything, whether it's, someone that comes in and helps you clean your house because you can't focus on everything. You can't be good at everything. Whether it's someone that helps you take care of your kids, whether it's, a husband or a boyfriend or a girlfriend or whatever, to help when you just need someone to kind of talk through things, when things aren't going so great, or when things are going so great. I mean, I'm so lucky that my dad at 89, I could still call him and say, Dad, guess what? This just happened. And he's so happy for me, and, it's everything. And it's, having an assistant that helps me with things that I need. So I don't think anyone should be too, feel guilty about having and needing the support. And if, by the way, if you can't afford it, if you're starting, you can't afford it, you could still get the support. You could still find another similar situation, working mom, and you could take the kids to school a couple days and she could do the other days. That's called support. All right. So it's, so there's no excuses.
So I want to talk a little bit about your support her. And this is what this is part of our brand, Bobbi, is I really truly do believe that we don't do it on our own. And, I went and when I was in New York, I visited the Fearless Girl. And as much as I was like the Fearless Girl and her power standing there, alone, I was actually really sad because I'm like, why do we have to be fearless and do it alone? Why can't we be surrounded by people that are championing us beside us, not in front of us, behind us, but beside us? And so you have an incredible story, and I'm really love how share your story about Stephen and his support and how that support has really laid the foundation for your success. So maybe you can share a little bit about that with our listeners today.
I mean, for me, it's everything. I would not have a company if I didn't have Stephen. I would not have been able to do anything without him. And, when you're choosing a partner or who you fall in love with, you can't always help. I fell in love with him before I knew really much about him. And he's just always been there for me. And I've always been there for him. I mean, there's no question we're each other's best friends. And there's no question we fight and we argue. And, when push comes to shove, it's like, okay, I'm sorry I upset you and let's just move on. But it's so important for me to have someone that I could just say, oh my God, I don't know if I could do this. I'm struggling. Do you know how many times where I didn't have sleep because one of my kids was up all night sick and I had to get up the next morning to get to an early morning TV, or I'd have to fly somewhere. I knew he'd be there to support me, and he was either physically being there or just saying, calm down, just you got this, just do it. And when you come home tomorrow night, you'll be fine. And those things, like, I remember those things. So he is my rock. And I'm lucky to have him.
So what a lot of people don't know is that he was a co-founder of BobbiBrown.com, which is
No, he's a co-founder
co-founder.
of everything. He was a co-founder of Bobbi Brown Cosmetics, but it's not in his resume. It's not on his LinkedIn. He's my business partner. Well, they didn't call things founders when we were starting. They didn't, there was no terms like brand. There was no terms like, co-founders, but he's been my business partner on everything that I have ever done. We have a TV and film and event studio together. It's his building. We have a hotel. It's his building. My office is in his building. So everything that we do together, it allows me to do what I'm good at, and I've got someone that does the things I'm not good at.
Well, I love your authenticity talking about that, Bobbi, because I don't think that we talk about it enough, how important it is that men and women are working together as a team. And it's like men alone or women alone, it's just a recipe for, not building that mountain faster or strong enough. And so I really love how you are so open about talking about that, because that conversation is not happening.
Right. Well, I'm pretty secure with who and what I am, that, which has taken years, by the way. I'm in my mid-60s, and it's taken me a long time, but like, this is who I am. This is what I'm good at. This is what I'm not good at. I don't mean to always be this, but I am. Like, I am who I am. So I know who I am, and so I know what I need. And honestly, I need Steven's expertise, which is a combination of, you got this, but it's also like, why are you doing that? That doesn't make sense. Why don't you do it this way? And that causes definitely a little friction, but it gives me something to think about. Maybe he's right, or realizing, what, I'm going to do it anyways, even though he thinks it's not a good use of my time. But I enjoy, I don't enjoy the banter back and forth, but I enjoy having a different way to look at things.
So I love so my next question is, and this is completely off script, but people still say it's a man's world. Would you agree?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's fine. That doesn't bother me. I mean, everyone's like, what do you think about this glass ceiling? I don't see it. I don't know. Are men and women equal? We're not equal. We are so much better. We are so much better. We could make babies and we could do 15 things at once, where men often are very like, they could do one thing at a time. All right. So, all right. Are women getting paid the same as men? Absolutely not, but that's something that has to change. And I do think, where would we be without Gloria Steinem?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So Gloria Steinem in the book,
Yes.
probably one of the strongest female role models. And that was actually my next kind of question for you is, who are like, you're so independent and fierce, and you know what you want and you go get it. You're confident. Your brand is confidence. But who are those women around you that inspire you to build, to grow, to evolve?
Well, I mean, my relationship with Gloria, and I mean, how many people get to say they have a relationship with Gloria Steinem? I don't take it lightly that we are friends, and when I see her, it's just pure joy. And she is, for those people out there, she is the most normal, nice, sweet, funny, together woman I have ever met. And the woman is turning 90. Okay. Like, 90 years old. And I was just at a dinner at her house. She's got a cane to support her because she needs the support, but she stands the entire evening talking to people. I wanted to sit down. I was exhausted. Gloria, can we sit down? I'm so tired. But she's incredible. And yeah, where would we be without her? I was telling my husband, I said, I do think one day she will be on a coin or a stamp. And because she is George Washington to the women's movement.
Without a doubt. And I met Gloria at Sundance just before the pandemic. And I want to add the word gracious and kind to those words. Like, she is an icon and a legend, but the attention is about you.
Right.
And not about the people around you. And she listens to you.
Right.
So I think, we have so many incredible role models, and I would love to see a coin with Gloria on it. I think that would be amazing. There's only one Gloria, but there's an element of confidence, the confidence that you talk about, how that is very evident. She paved her own path, and so that's not the easiest road, as you know, Bobbi. Paving your own path is never easy.
Right.
But what words of advice can you give to those ones that are, it's hard work. So
tell me what isn't. I would say to everybody out there, tell me what isn't hard, right? What isn't hard? Like, what was it? Mae West said, aging is not for sissies, right? It's not easy, as we get older, but there's things you have to adjust. It's certainly not easy being a working mother, but you figure it out. It's not easy being a wife. It's definitely not easy being, a daughter or being a cousin or being a friend. Nothing is easy in life. But what people have to realize, it's the joy and it's the passion that allows you to do the hard things.
So let me ask you, and I want to get into the Jones Road, and I like for sure about like the 25 years breaking out, and doing it all over again in your mid 60s, which is phenomenal. When people are slowing down, you're speeding up. So let's go back to the energy piece, because, when you're in, like, I'm 53, and I even notice a difference in my energy level. But when I'm unfocused and I'm doing something, no worries. So what keeps you motivated? What keeps you energized, and ready to take on these big, big things, like starting another business from scratch again?
Well, first of all, I'm very naive. Like, I don't think, oh my God, it's going to be so hard. I don't think about that. But people forget you could be successful in many different ways. If you are not mentally healthy, meaning if you're not positive and upbeat, you're not going to have an easy time. And certainly the most important thing, which people don't realize, is your health. If you don't feel good, you're not going to have the energy. And I'm someone that always pays attention to what I put in my body, how I live my life, the choices I make. And, I exercise every day, and I do. And sometimes what I do isn't working. So then I just do something else. I'm like, okay, I think no more, soul cycle classes, because it's hurting my neck, right? It's hurting my lower back. Okay, so I'm walking more, I'm doing weights more, I'm moving my body. Oh, my granddaughter is heavy. So guess what? I walked around the gym with a bag of 20-pound, whatever was in that sack. So when I pick her up, it doesn't hurt my back. But is it easy? No, it's hard. Do I push those things in the gym when you see? Yeah, I do. I don't go as fast as other people, maybe, but I go fast for me. So yeah, you got to keep exercising to feel strong in your body, so you could be strong in your mind.
And I know that you've created a company with wellness products as well that sort of promote wellness on that very holistic level. And so, you're really beauty from the inside out.
Right. But what you might not know, and this is really important, I did start a wellness brand when I left the cosmetics company, and it did not work. It failed. It failed. And by the way, thank God it failed, because I wouldn't have started Jones Road. And I realize now why it failed. I didn't realize it while it was tough and not working. I do know now. And one day there'll be a Harvard or a business review on why Jones Road works and why this one didn't. And it's okay to not have everything be a success. I learned a lot.
Mm. I think Michelle Obama gave a speech actually, and it was about how fear and courage go hand, fear and failure go hand in hand, or success and failure go hand in hand, because they really do. You can't
Yeah.
have successes without failures.
Right.
And
Mm.
it was a really inspiring speech that
Mm.
she did, which was
Yeah.
like, I think I wrote it all out. I should have memorized it, but it's
Uh-huh.
going to be imprinted up here. But it's success and failure go hand in hand, period. So I am glad that you started the new brand, and I want to talk a little bit about that. But before I do, this is the Women of Inspiration podcast, and I love your candor and your authenticity. But why, and we talked about Gloria, why is it so important to have female role models, Bobbi?
Well, first of all, I'm a visual person, and it's really important to kind of know how someone else did it, and also to kind of understand, what women go through and how they overcame certain things, because there's always things to overcome. And by the way, there's things men have to overcome too. They have a different way of learning things. They have a different way of, feeling bad about something that women do. But, I think it's interesting to be a woman, because so much is expected of you and you have such expectations on yourself. And when you start to realize what is important and what isn't, is really when the magic happens. Like, I can't do everything. I don't do everything well. And there's some days, I'm like, oh my God, I probably should have gotten a blowout. I probably should have gotten a manicure. And you know what? So what? Right? So what? I didn't. And it's okay.
And so I love the fact that, and this is a lead to question, is we need those role models. We need to celebrate them. But why is it so uncomfortable for women to step into that spotlight so we can see them?
I don't think it's that difficult. I mean, I don't think it's that difficult for women. I know a lot of women who are succeeding, and who are like they're like guiding lights now. They're doing so well. And what I think the difficult thing is for women to feel bad about where they are because someone else is doing better. No, it's important to appreciate what people are doing, and not just be, someone that feels bad because someone else is winning. So I think it's important to support, and not only support, to tell them, oh my God, you're doing great. Like, I called someone up that used to work for me years ago. She was a marketing person on my team, and she is actually, a very big investor right now. And she got shouted out in a couple tough articles in a positive way. So I reached out and I said, I just want to say it was so cool to see you in this article. Congratulations. I'm so proud of you. And she called me back. She goes, this is the nicest thing anyone's done to me. And I'm like, I want to see people succeed.
Mm. And I think to be valued, to be seen, to be heard,
Yeah.
and to be valued. That
Yeah.
is that is actually the reason why I created Woman of Inspiration Awards, Bobbi. Because my lawyer, I wanted to say thank you to her. She's just happy doing her own thing. And I'm like, no, you need to be acknowledged. You need to be in the spotlight and really know
Mm.
the impact that you made in my
Right.
life. And it was
Mm-hmm.
through that motion that it was just like, I have a woman of inspiration. I am a woman of inspiration, but it's life changing to be acknowledged for
Mm-hmm.
your work. And just like you said, it
Right.
seems really simple, but it changes, it brings more confidence, and it encourages people to keep going, even when they might be at their tipping point and going,
Right. Right.
Have you ever been at that tipping point where you're like, I don't know if I can keep going?
Sure. And then that's when it's okay to press the pause button, push yourself back and say, okay, is this working? What isn't working for me? How do I make adjustments? And that's not failure. It's part of the process. And I also want to give women permission to be vulnerable, right? I mean, be honest, be authentic, be real, be vulnerable. Like, you don't have to pretend everything's perfect all the time, because it's not, right? I mean, the way you are with your girlfriends, I pride myself being that way when I'm interviewed, because there are times that things just don't feel good. And, what do you do about them? And it's, to always pretend that everything's perfect doesn't help anyone.
Be authentic. And I know that word gets way too overused about being authentic. I think probably the best example of that is this interview right now and this conversation, because you are someone that a lot of people look up to, Bobbi. And if you can own it and say, I failed, I don't always, have it all figured out, and I need to pause the odd time, that's real. And so, there's dealing with, I've interviewed a lot of women, and, one of the whole things is, women have been like shamed for having like the ego and being shamed for speaking out or speaking up. How can we encourage more women to be courageous, and be confident and just go for it?
Well, I mean, there's nothing except, just go buy something Nike that says, just do it. Like, you just got to do it, whatever it is. And just, if it doesn't feel right, then do something else. Like, you just have, do I need to give people permission to do it? Do I need to give women permission to do it? Perhaps, but also do it smartly. Like, do it in a way that feels right for you. And everyone's different, not people think, well, if I only had more money, I could do this. If I only, and that might be the truth, but that shouldn't stop you, right? It shouldn't stop you. It's like, okay, I don't have enough money, so maybe I won't do it that way. Maybe I won't go hire a consultant to do PR. Maybe I'll just do it myself, right? So, I don't know. Like, everyone has to kind of like, okay, so what now what? That's one of my favorite quotes, which comes from my friend Liz Murray, who I so owe a phone call to, who wrote my favorite book, which I want everyone to read, called Breaking Night. Basically, it's her story from being homeless to going to Harvard.
Incredible.
And her quote that I painted on my wall, so what, now what? I don't believe in excuses. I believe in someone to say, oh, I couldn't do this, or I forgot to do this, but I did this. Like, I don't want an excuse. I just want you to figure out how to get something done. All right, so what? All right, that didn't work. Now what? Like, that's probably my favorite quote.
Love it. Okay, so what, now what? Let's talk about Jones Road.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
kind of
I've
like that
never,
moment. So what, now what?
so
I
what,
mean,
now what? Which is, I found myself after, the history was, we sold Bobbi Brown Cosmetics after 4.5 years. I stayed 22 years as an employee. And this was, by the way, I had 2 little kids. Like, everything was unexpected. Didn't, totally naive. My husband and I, as brilliant as he was, we didn't have a lot of life experience in our early 30s, mid 30s. But when I signed a 25-year non-compete, because I'm like, well, I'm not going to want to work in my 60s, because it's, 60 seems so old when you're 34. I was wrong, but everything happens for a reason. So when I left Bobbi Brown Cosmetics, I had 4.5 years left on this non-compete. And I did a whole bunch of things because I just didn't want to sit around waiting and doing. I didn't want to feel bad. I don't like to surround myself feeling bad. I like to feel good. So I did a bunch of things, and yeah, I tried a wellness brand. It would kept me busy. I learned a lot. It didn't end up working. I ended up walking away from it, not losing any money, not making any money, but done. And then I'm like, well, maybe, I'll just open, I miss cosmetics. Maybe I'll just make something and sell it on Etsy. Maybe I'll start a brand, call it, nobody or unknown, and no one will know that I'm behind it. All right, that didn't happen. But then I started, making these formulas that I fell in love with, and I gave them to my friends, and they're like, oh my God, I need more. So I'm like, all right, I'm on to something, because it was different than traditional makeup of my past. And that's how I started Jones Road.
Now, there's something really interesting. I'm getting goosebumps actually thinking about it, but you wore a necklace.
Yeah.
And so maybe you can tell listeners about the necklace. It was dated 10/20. And there's some synchronicities, and I'm all about synchronicities, but there were some synchronicities about the street and the name of your business,
Right.
the
Yeah.
necklace, and the timing. So maybe you
Right.
can share a little bit about that.
So when I left the brand, I was sad. I was angry. I was sad. It's a loss. It was like my first baby. I had the company, the same time I gave birth to my first son. So, I started the company. So I had to go through all these different emotions. And I saw like a emotional release chiropractor, which helped. I saw a life coach. I didn't see a shrink, but a life coach, which helped a lot. And then one day I was at my favorite jewelry store that makes these charms. Her name is Helen Ficalora, and I saw in her in the cabinet there was one which was an ampersand, and an ampersand means and I'm like, I want that, and I want to put the date my non-compete was up. So 10/20 that I wore on this chain that I put next to my heart. And 4.5 years to me seemed like so long, but I wanted to launch the day my non-compete was up. And everybody said, don't do it. It's a week before the presidential elections, in the middle of the pandemic, in the middle of Me Too. The news cycle was so bad. And everyone said, just wait. And what was I going to wait for? And I said, no way. And I launched. And I just, put my hands up like, okay, let's see. And it was just fine.
The divine timing was the 10/20, though.
Yeah.
Nobody else understood that. That was your time.
It was October of 20. Yeah. That was my time. And it just needed to happen. And, I did it. And the name Jones Road came one day when we were driving to the Hamptons, my husband and I was telling him we can't think of a name. I was like obsessing, and my husband said, well, you've got to think of a name by Monday, or we won't have time to launch the company when you want, just letting you know that. And I looked down, and all of a sudden on Waze, I saw a street that said Jones Road. And I said, Jones Road Beauty. And he said, I like it. And it was available. End of story.
Like, fantastic. And I think that every brand has a story behind their name, and that's a super incredible story. And you know it right away. You don't have to guess at it. It's just like instant. But I want to talk a little bit about, what did it feel like to finally get back to makeup after, not being able to use your name for so many years?
Well, I mean, what feels the best is being my authentic self. Like when you are part of a big company and $1 billion brand, there's a lot of politics involved, and I'm just not that way. A lot of pretense, a lot of positioning, a lot, like, I'm like, to be able to go out and be who I am, it feels normal to me. And it just feels like I'm 20 something years old starting out. Like I had to learn how to be a corporate person. And as soon as I went away, it's like the entire thing just like, I don't need to be that. When my non-compete was up, I knew, I still felt in prison when I had a non-compete, that I couldn't really be my authentic self. So I am very happy to be the person I've been meant to be.
And again, I'm just going to say most people think about slowing down in their mid 60s and going on vacation, and you're just starting a whole new chapter to your life, which is super exciting and very inspiring. Um, and I want to talk about the difference between now versus then. I mean, business back then is very different than business here now. You're on Instagram, you're on TikTok. Um, do you dance on TikTok? I tried. I still
Mm.
haven't got that figured out. But you became an accidental TikTok star last year. Like, was it easy for you to start doing that? Or like, there's a lot of people that are on the fringe. So how did you step into that, and how has that been for your brand?
Well, first of all, I didn't know it was going to be, so well received, me on TikTok. And I didn't think that me on TikTok made any sense because I wasn't dancing and I wasn't doing weird things and smashing into walls or, trying to get attention. I was just being authentically me. So again, it was like, okay, what do you guys want to know? Let me tell you. And, the biggest audience were women of a certain age that were like, I don't know how to do this. Why do I look tired? How do I do this? It really took off, and it became very popular. It's not as it was then. Things have shifted, and TikTok for us is not the driving force, but our digital ads and our social, and there's now a TV commercial that's on cable. So all of those things, the biggest difference for me is it's really hard for me to walk around without people stopping me sometimes. um that's new for me because I've always been able to kind of not be the
Like,
persona, yeah, not be the persona that people see all the time. And now, because I film a lot of these things as natural as I'm sitting here,
mm.
so people see me, the normal me, and not just the duded up me.
And I think actually that's the most relatable form of, who we are as people. We can relate to them.
Sure.
So, and I think that that's probably, you brought that to sort of make up on the first time, right? And
Yeah.
you're bringing it back again. And it all
Right.
goes back to that authentic self
Mm-hmm.
and that confidence, and that relatability. So, anyways, TikTok will be in the room for Women of Inspiration Awards. It's going to be awesome. Can't wait to have you there. I know that we're sort of running out on our time here, Bobbi. And I look forward to continuing the conversation on stage with you.
uh,
I could talk all day with you about all the incredible women. Like, I don't think when I think about somebody who's touched or worked with or been friends with or crossed paths with, you've met some of the most remarkable women in the world. And so what inspires you so much about women and the women that you've met and worked with?
well, it's so interesting when I think about that question. I think about the women that I don't want to be like, that I,
Mm.
that maybe are very successful, and I just don't want to. I just It doesn't work for me. And I think about the women that have made the biggest difference, the hardworking, the nice, and for me, it's just about being a nice, normal person. And I don't care how successful or how not successful. It's just really important to be nice, to be kind. And, you could be as strong and tough as you want. You could still be nice and kind.
And what is your definition of a woman of inspiration, Bobbi?
For me, it's just being a good role model. It's being a good role model. It's, realizing, seeing something that, wow, that's so amazing you did this. Wow, I could probably do something like that too.
And, as we celebrate you as a woman of inspiration, what does that recognition mean?
I mean, it's a wonderful honor. I don't take it lightly, and I appreciate it. And at this stage of my life, I get a little teary eyed when I think about it. So I just do what I do, and I just go on and I keep doing my work.
And you talk about your papa and,
Mm.
like, so I imagine they're probably like as proud as ever because you're still a daughter. And to see you still succeeding and thriving and happy and healthy is really
Mm.
important. So I hope that they'll be able to join in with you on that special occasion.
Ah.
Um, Now, before we end, just one more because we're going to talk more about this, but you've got some big announcements. You've done some amazing things. And in 3.5 years, Bobbi, like who opens, like your brand exploded. Um, what are you most proud of in these past 3.5 years with Jones Road?
I'm there's so many things that it's not even fair, but I'm most proud that these women that wear Jones Road look so great, that understand that there is, a way to make yourself look great. I'm proud of everyone that works for me in the stores, and I'm super proud of my team that works with me at Jones Road. So no, I'm pretty psyched with what we've created.
Well, I want to say thank you so much for such a wonderful interview. It was a
Hmm.
really special interview,
Yeah.
and I hope that our listeners were able to get a sneak peek into Bobbi's world. I know that you don't hide away from being authentic and being out there, and I'm really happy that we had this opportunity to chat, and I look forward to welcoming you to the stage in Toronto very soon. So any final words, Bobbi, that you'd like to share with the Women of Inspiration podcast today?
Don't forget about breathing. Don't forget about breathing. Like breathe, breathe, take it down a notch and go for it.
Mm, good advice. I need that today.
All
I needed
right.
that
Thank you.
today. Thank you, Bobbi. It was a pleasure having you on the Woman of Inspiration podcast. For those of you that want to learn more about Bobbi Brown and Jones Road Beauty, check her out on Instagram, and it's justbobbi.com on Instagram. And of course, you're on LinkedIn as well. I think we're LinkedIn buddies on LinkedIn. So I don't know how often you're on there, but you're very accessible. So thank you so much, Bobbi. It has been an absolute pleasure. And thank you for all women for making beauty and confidence so much a part of who we are as women.
Oh, thank you. I look forward to meeting you next month.
Sounds great. Take care, Bobbi.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.